Hello, my name is Eric Schneider. I'm with StraightUp Solar. I want to welcome everybody to tonight's webinar on the Enphase IQ Battery, Keeping Calm in the Storm. We appreciate you tonight joining us to learn about how a fully integrated solar energy system can be customized to meet your home's electricity needs in a power outage, gain more control over your energy, and help you save money. I'm joined today by our project developer, Tisha Costco. Tisha is located, our project developer, in our Southern Illinois office, and she's been helping homeowners and businesses and nonprofit organizations on their solar energy solutions. Tisha has a particular expertise on the Illinois Solar for All program, which is a great program for nonprofits, churches, religious institutions, and low-income housing properties to really make solar more affordable and put on their properties here. Tisha also holds the NABCEP PV Associate certification. I'll get into that in a little bit. Prior to joining StraightUp Solar, Tisha was part of John A. Logan College, where she was assisting in their 2-megawatt solar installation on their campus here. And she also worked on some workforce development activities for area employers here. We're really honored to have our Enphase IQ Battery expert on the call here. Ashy Levinson is our Regional Sales Manager for Enphase. He's responsible for the regional sales and relationships with solar installers all across the Enphase Central region. If you're not familiar with Enphase, they're a worldwide company with 4.0 million products installed across 150 countries all around the world here. They've also recently opened up a microinverter manufacturing site in the United States here. So we're really proud to have that expertise right here in the Central region with Ashy. He has 5 years experience with Enphase and has become an expert on energy storage systems and microinverters to improve solar energy production and efficiency for all his clients. He's also been trained as an environmental engineer and was a sales consultant for a Chicago area residential solar installer. So you can tell by our biographies today, we have a lot of expertise on the line here. And again, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. We'll be answering them at the end of the session here. We're going to talk about how energy storage works. We're going to talk about the solar incentives that are out there at the federal and state level. Then we'll get into the specifics of the Enphase IQ 5P battery, the new battery energy storage system that Enphase has on the marketplace. And then again, we'll do your question and answers. So with that, I'm really proud to turn this presentation over to Tisha Costco, our project developer, talk a little bit about how energy storage works.
Eric, thank you. I appreciate that. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of the benefits of energy storage tonight. Just some of the highlights that we're going to talk about is how energy storage allows you to control your energy cost. Importantly, to control your power access in case of a grid failure, power outage. And lastly, how to put your utilities net metering policy on your side. Some of the things that we're avoiding by going with storage are a noisy generator, to store or worry about access to diesel or gasoline for that generator. We're going to be able to avoid some of the infrastructure costs for propane or natural gas, or be subject to the cost fatality of diesel, gasoline, propane, or natural gas. Go ahead, Eric. Thanks. Solar and battery benefits. So one of the first things that I want to get into is a lot of people, when they start looking into solar for the first time, have this misconception or this myth that if you have solar, you are safe from a power outage. And that is 100% untrue. The way that we operate, especially in Illinois with our grid, is that we are all grid tied with our solar systems at this point. So if the grid goes down, if we have a power outage, you're going to be out of luck just like everybody else. And that is really coming from a safety standpoint. We need to protect our linemen. If our linemen are out there working diligently to get our power restored, we need to make sure that any power source is disconnected. So that really, first and foremost, is a safety measure for the linemen. One of the benefits is that you're going to be able to use your stored energy when the sun goes down. There's going to be little to no maintenance, no additional fuel costs, and it is going to improve your electrical bill savings. Go ahead, Eric. Thank you. Okay, so let's get into how the solar adds that value. First and foremost, if you are adding solar storage in the terms of a battery, you're going to have access to that power when the grid goes down. I know that I just said that when the grid goes down, we want to make sure that we have safety. But when you install a battery, you're going to have a safety, a disconnect, a safety that's going to stop that power from going back to the grid in the form of a transfer switch, where you are not going to be shooting that grid back, the power back to the grid. Some of the ways that this adds value is your utilities are going to be using a time of use net metering. What that means is when you have on peak versus off peak. So when you have off peak time of use energy, that's going to cost a little bit less. On peak is going to cost you a little bit more. Those are going to be typically the times when we have a lot of people using it. Think dinner time, 5 till 8. Every utility is a little bit differently, so you would certainly want to look up your own utility company policy on that just to make sure. But when you're using a battery, what you can do is you can use some of that storage battery, the stored energy during that off-peak time, and you can use that energy during the on-peak time. And that is going to increase your energy independence. And it's really essentially allowing you to use your own energy instead of buying it back from the grid. Also, with this practice, you are using less grid energy, so this is also going to help reduce those greenhouse gases. Go ahead, Eric, thanks. We can also talk about the incentives for solar at this point. And the first one is going to be the big one, the federal incentive. This is going to be a federal investment tax credit. The way that this works is you are going to have a solar system with a net cost. You're going to be able to get 30% as a tax credit on that incentive. This is going to be including labor costs, your installation, interconnection, typically any electrical upgrades as well. Things that it's not going to include are a new roof, or if we have to come in and do any kind of support to support those panels if they're on your roof. There is no maximum credit, but you do have to have a tax appetite. So what that essentially means is you have to pay some federal taxes in order to utilize that as a credit. You don't have to actually have the appetite for the entire federal tax credit in the very first year, because this tax credit does roll until 2034. So you can use a little chunk of it every year until you utilize that, or that 10 years is up. So like essentially, if you were to do an installation of solar in 2024, you would be able to put that down on your taxes and apply for that credit in the year 2025. The home does have to be owned by the taxpayer. It does not have to be your principal residence, so it could be a vacation home or a second home. And we can get you more incentive details at EnergyStar.gov or even IRS.gov. And we always like to suggest before you do this, you want to talk to your tax accountant just to verify that that all works. Thanks. And then the second incentive that we work with in Illinois is our solar renewable energy credit. So in Illinois, there is a goal to get to 40% renewable energy on the grid by 2030. I think that we're roughly at around 5% at this time. So we do have a little bit more growth to go, but we're certainly working at. SRECs are going to help meet that goal. This is funding that comes from your major utility companies, and it is a small fee on customers. It is not a tax. Typically, the way that this works is it's going to be based off the production of your system. So you're going to get paid per kilowatt hour that you're sending back to the grid. So that is how those come back to you. SRECs are going to give you cash payments based on those projections of future energy production for your solar projects. So essentially what that means is what we're going to do is analyze how much your system is going to produce, and we're going to get a payment for you for 15 years worth of production. And that's going to come to you roughly probably about a year to 15 months after your installation is complete. Go ahead, Eric, thanks. At this time, StraightUp Solar is offering the Tesla Powerwall, Powerwall 3, and my favorite is the Enphase IQ 5P battery. Ashy is our resident expert on Enphase battery, and he is going to go through and give us some of the characteristics, and I will look at some of these questions in the meantime and see if I can get some answers to you. Thanks, Ashley.
Yeah, thanks so much. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Hopefully no background noise of, all the kids home downstairs screaming, so hopefully you can't hear that on your end. As Tish mentioned, we've got an amazing battery solution for you guys at the moment, the IQ Battery 5P. And so I'll talk a bit about the hardware component, both of the battery and the IQ system controller, which Tish actually referenced earlier, so that we don't send any energy back to the grid during a grid outage. But just looking at the battery itself, it's pictured here on the right side of your screen. It is a modular battery, so you can stack multiple batteries and add to expand the size of your system. Each of these 5P building blocks has 5 kilowatt hours of usable capacity. So that's the amount of energy that we can store that you can use in each battery itself. And then with regards to power output, each of these batteries has a 3.84 kilowatt output of instantaneous power. And we can actually surge to 7.68 kilowatts for a few seconds to help handle surge loads. So the reason this is important, and those two kind of specs are things to keep in mind when you're sizing a battery, especially when you're talking about the grid being out and powering your home. You need to make sure that it's sized so it can power any load that you hope it can at any moment in time, and that's the power output. And then if you want to be able to run loads for an estimated period of time, that's the capacity side. So you're going to be working with Tish and others at StraightUp to size your system according to your individual needs. So those are the capacity and power output. This is an AC coupled solution. So in a slide or two, we'll see under the hood of what this battery, how it operates and kind of the architecture underneath there. It is able to be wall mounted or floor mounted. I believe the mounted weight is about 175 pounds. So it's actually one of the lighter and smaller batteries on the market. It's a very power dense unit compared to others on the market. But you do have the option to mount it on the floor as well for additional capacity there. It can be added to your solar system that you're adding today. If you already have a system and you want to add batteries, you can be retrofitting your previous Enphase system as well. It is a lithium ion battery, and we'll talk about chemistry a little more in a moment, but it is a lithium iron phosphate chemistry, which is the safest chemistry on the market for residential home storage. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we do have the best warranty in the industry. It is a 15-year product warranty on your battery, or 6,000 cycles. You should hit the 15 years first. A cycle is a full charge discharge. So if you're cycling daily, you'll hit 15 years before you hit 6,000 cycles. So let's go to the next slide. So with regards to how the product actually works, I love this slide because there's a few big things here. If you look at the picture on the right, this is a picture of our battery, essentially with the cover removed. And what you see here is the architecture of our battery. So the whole bottom half of what you're seeing there with kind of those metal ribs is the battery cell itself. That's where the 5 kilowatt hours is stored. All batteries are stored in DC. So batteries are essentially just on-demand energy. It's all stored in DC. So you do need inverters to convert it into AC when you're discharging for your house. So on the top there, you can actually see where we have our 6 microinverters that are powering that charging and discharging of your battery. It's all under the hood. It's an AC architecture. But what makes our battery unique compared to anything else on the market is the fact that you actually see 6 inverters there, right? We are a microinverter manufacturer since day one back in 2006. It's what we do. And we put that architecture into our batteries as well. So traditionally, batteries might only have a single inverter that's there to convert your usable energy for you into AC. That's a single point of failure in those battery systems. We like to distribute that. We like to say, hey, we're going to make sure that energy is routed through as many routes as possible to reduce any problems for the homeowner. So it's a very stable, very reliable architecture for you, for the homeowner, for the customer. It's also a lower voltage system because you do have AC coming out of the battery unit itself, no high voltage DC. So if we can go to the next slide, this is just essentially another viewing of the battery without the cover, and also with that plastic dead front removed. So there's a head-on view. You can again see the microinverters, 3 on each side on the top. The battery management unit is essentially the computer that's going to be operating and controlling the battery and making sure it's communicating with your system controller and your solar to make sure it's operating in the right mode. So, and the battery cell pack, like we said, is the DC where it's all stored. So if you are getting an Enphase system, this is what it will or could look like. You have your Enphase PV on the roof. You got panels on your array, and you have Enphase microinverters underneath each panel, and we convert DC to AC right there at the source for you. We make sure that every panel is operating to its most, it's extreme possible. We're not going to focus too much on the PV. And that's all routed down to your IQ combiner, which has your IQ gateway, which is your communications device. So that's what's going to be connected to the cloud, either over your internet or a cell modem. And that's where it's going to report, and you can view and see everything on your mobile app or on the computer. So that's all pretty standard if you're getting your solar system. Now, everything essentially to the right of that IQ combiner is what you're going to be adding when you add storage. So first and foremost is the IQ system controller. As Tish mentioned a lot earlier in the webinar, we can't let any energy go to the grid when the grid is out. We can't harm any workers. So the IQ system controller has a relay that will open up, and you can see that line to the left of it is red, indicating that no energy, no power is flowing back to the utility meter. So this is going to allow us to form a microgrid on your home, and it's going to allow the PV to continue to operate as long as there's sun. And it's going to, that sunlight is going to be converted into solar, which is going to be powering your loads. And if there's extra solar, it's going to help charge your batteries. And if there isn't any more need past that, it's actually going to be able to throttle down to meet your needs, right? Your batteries are there to help discharge if the loads in your house exceed what you have from solar coming in. So whether you're using a lot in the day, but more primarily it would be in the evening or nighttime when you don't have much or any energy coming from your solar array, your batteries will be able to discharge and provide power to your loads. Our system can be designed as either a critical load backup, just supplying power to select loads that you would determine with your StraightUp Solar rep, or it can be designed as a whole home backup if you are getting enough batteries to essentially be able to power all the loads in your home. So you can size it accordingly with your rep to make sure you're getting exactly what you want. The other thing to see there is the generator that's pictured there on the side of the house. Depending on which IQ system controller you get, you can integrate a generator if you do already have one or choose to get one in the future. We do have a list of compatible generators, and you can essentially use that in a way to be a backup to your backup. So if you do have extended outages where there isn't any solar production and your batteries do deplete to select states of charge, you can actually utilize your generator to help that system recharge and help power loads as needed as well. So we can go to the next slide here. All right, so this is on the right, you can see a system that StraightUp has actually installed. It is using our older generation battery, that is the 10T. So you can see it's actually a little bit bigger and wider than our current generation, but the actual setup on the wall is largely unchanged. The IQ system controller is pictured there on the left of the critical loads panel. You have our IQ combiner under the stairs, and then you've got your battery system. So it is designed in our area primarily to be installed indoors, given the temperature range we have. And with lithium-ion batteries, we don't want them in too cold. So these likely will be going inside, and you can see that pictured here. The system controller, again, is going to make sure that during that grid outage, your solar, your battery, and your loads are totally isolated from the utility so that you're not harming any workers and you can create that microgrid. And here's another picture of an install, again, using our older 10T batteries, right? So again, our 5P are more power than the previous generation in a smaller amount of space. Aesthetics use a similar aesthetics as you can see in the picture as well. Another this is a 20 kilowatt hour install that they put in with 2 of our 10 Ts. So for the same capacity, now you'd be putting in 4 of our 5 Ps, but you would actually be getting twice the power that you would have had you gone with the previous generation. The other important thing to keep in mind when you're talking about Enphase batteries is that you do have a number of different modes that you can be operating your batteries in. One is a backup mode where your battery is essentially charging as much as possible and waiting in anticipation for a grid outage to discharge and power your oh, sorry, I skipped ahead. Backup mode is where your batteries are charging and waiting in anticipation for a grid outage to be able to power your loads in your house as needed. We do have 2 other modes available as well, and you will be able to toggle all this within your Enphase app. You see pictured here on the right. So savings mode is used when your utility would have peak rates during select times of day. Kind of like Tish mentioned, sometimes when the usage on the grid is very heavy, some utilities will raise the rates at select times, mid to late afternoon, and you can program your battery to discharge just during those select times to reduce buying energy from your utility at elevated rates. So we call that savings mode. And we also have self-consumption mode, which, if you recall from one of the earlier slides that Tish mentioned, it allows you to capture your excess solar production throughout the day, store it in your battery, and then utilize it in the evening and night rather than giving that energy to the grid and potentially losing value for your generated kilowatt hour. So those are the 3 different modes. And for both savings mode and self-consumption mode, we do have Storm Guard, where you'll be able to have the system programmed where if there is a national weather alert in your area, it'll automatically transfer you out of one of those savings or self-consumption mode and into full backup mode and charge that battery up in anticipation for a potential grid outage. And you can toggle that on or off on your own. If we go back a slide, I do want to show you what it looks like. This is what the dashboard will look like on your phone when you add storage, and it's actually pretty cool. You'll be able to see at any point in time where your energy is coming from. Are you importing from the grid? Is anything being generated from your solar, or is your battery discharging? You'll also be able to see in the center how much energy your home is consuming that day. So you can kind of, do some math to see what's going on. And then on the bottom, you see, are you actually sending any energy to the grid and exporting, or are you going to charge your battery? So you'll be able to get this holistic view of your system right there on your dashboard. And again, where it says profile self-consumption, you'll be able to click through and toggle and control your battery to best meet your needs. On the right, you can see with an Enphase system, because we have microinverters under the solar, you'll actually be able to see panel level solar production. You'll be able to see exactly what's going on. You might have some panels that are shaded or covered in snow or leaves, and some, throughout the day or whatever it may be, but you'll be able to see exactly what's going on down to the panel level with your system. I think that might be it for this slide.
Yeah, I think that covers Enphase, and we're going to jump into the questions, but I just want to conclude here a little bit. Hopefully we got you excited about the value of battery storage in terms of a comprehensive energy solution, combining your solar PV system with battery storage. So if you're interested in getting started here with StraightUp Solar, we have a easy 5-step process to get you started in solar plus battery here. I will put in the link right here, access to our get a quote form here. And if you get started here, we work with our solar support specialist who will kind of ask you questions about your house, your roof age, what your utility bill is, what your utility usage is. We'll prepare, that is handed on to a product developer like Tisha, who then develops a customized solar proposal for you. It really examines, using our software, where the solar will sit on your home, or will it sit in your backyard if you're talking about a ground mount, and really lay out a customized proposal for you. If that looks good, the price works, you understand the incentives, and you then go ahead and sign a contract, you move to our project management stage, which is 3 through 5 on this diagram here. We assign you an individual project manager that works through the process with you. We're called a turnkey solar installer, which means that we handle the engineering, the design, the permitting. All you really do is sit on your couch and wait for our install crew to show up here. And so all that is handled in-house. The project manager is in touch with you. We actually have an app that keeps you up to date on when your projects are getting approved. Right now, we're about 10 weeks out in terms of installation. Once you get everything approved, we'll put you onto our schedule here, and we have our crews. We have a crew based in Southern Illinois, 2 crews in Bloomington, Illinois, and we have 4 crews here in St. Louis. We can get you installed. Typical installation takes about 2 to 3 days, maybe another day with the battery storage solution here. And then once you get it all installed, you get your battery installed, you'll be so happy. You'll be praising the sun, capturing all the power of the sun into your house, and proud to be a solar homeowner here. So that's our process. We're excited to talk solar with you here at StraightUp Solar. Hope you got that from our speakers today. With that, I want to thank our expert speakers, Tisha Costco, our project developer down in Southern Illinois, and Ashy Levinson, the Central Regional Sales Manager for Enphase. Thank you very much for taking time out of your evening, both of you, for being our experts and answering our questions. I'm going to put Tisha's contact information back on the screen here and get running here.
Yeah, I was going to say thank you, everybody. I did get some information from Paula and Deb, and it looks like we might have a couple of unanswered questions. If you just want to reach out to me, even a text on my phone or something like that, I can get those answered for you. Thank you.
And we can put the answers on the post. When we post this on our webpage, we can do a little Q&A at the bottom too. So Ashley, thank you very much for all your expertise. I'll let you go join your family downstairs. And Tisha, I hope you have a great day tomorrow, guys. And thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope that you found this informative. And with that, we'll close out the event. Thank you very much for attending.